French straw hat on her head. It was warm for June, but the heat felt right somehow. Her maidservant, Sasha, one of the three in the huge house, opened the door as if she had been waiting for her. This pleased Tora to no end. "Good afternoon, Sasha," she said primly, stepping through the massive doorway. The tall ceilings and thick mahogany paneling kept the place darker and thus cooler than out of doors. Tora handed Sasha her gloves and hat. "I trust you completed your task of oiling the staircase woodwork today?" "Yes, Miss Anders," Sasha said with a deferential curtsy. She was short in stature, had drab brown hair, and spoke with a slight Russian accent. In a town full of Chinese and Irish, it had been difficult to find the right servants, Tora mused. But Sasha was one of the best, an excellent maid, and none of Tora's gentlemen callers would look her way twice. Perfect. "I did the paneling in the dining room as well," the maid added hastily, as Tora walked to the staircase and peered closely at the hand-carved balustrade, looking for traces of dust. But Sasha had done an impeccable job. All the way up the grand sweeping staircase, which Tora hoped to descend soon in a fine French wedding gown, there was not one speck of dust to be found. "Good," she muttered, heading at once to the dining room. Tora loved this room. After the heavy, dark paneling of the foyer and hallway, entering the dining room was like entering dawn. Everything was different. The panels were outlined in white painted wood, their interiors covered in coordinating velvet that was padded from behind. Tora likened eating in the room to dining on a massive bed fit for a queen, and the guests she entertained around the enormous, ostentatious table often agreed. Absent-mindedly, Tora walked around the perimeter of the room, thinking of the many admirers who had sat at the table, gazing at her, longingly. In the West, women were scarce, and women of quality and wealth were treasured like gold from the mountains. Men came to the Montana territory to farm the rich soil, help lay the tracks, or mine the high hills in the distance. The capital bustled as people entered and exited daily for other parts of the territory, leaving their money in the townspeople's hands as they went through. Yes, it was a fine place for a woman to make her way, and men far and wide admired her for her tenacity. Gentlemen came to call at all hours of the day, and her maidservants turned many away without an excuse. Because Tora's heart belonged to one man, Trent Storm. He was the man who had made her the woman she was today. She was the woman who would make him a man of true power in the future. And it would all begin tonight. Trent Storm made his way through the throngs of people at the train station, not surprised that Tora was absent rather than there to greet him. It was not their pattern to have a cheerful reunion at the station. Instead, Tora would want him to come to her, in her corner, so to speak, giving her the advantage. She would be dressed to the hilt and smelling of her intoxicating cologne, a mix of jasmine from the Orient and vanilla, and smiling at him in that way that melted his heart. What he wouldn't give to see her in a plain dress like the simple farm women around him. He yearned for the chance to slip his hands into her hair and release the pins, setting free those thick chestnut waves to cascade down past her shoulders. They would frame her face and those incredible blue eyes, and it would take every bit of his control not to kiss her. "Mr. Trent," the porter said again, clearly irritated. "Your valise. You forgot this back there." "Oh, thank you. I don't know where my mind is," he started lamely, fishing in his pocket for 2 bits for the man's trouble. Of course he knew exactly where his mind was, and it was time to clear it. He had spent 4 years waiting for Tora Anders to be honest with him, to reveal the reason she had made up the story of her family's death on the high Atlantic seas, and the reason for her lies since then. He couldn't understand why she would hide a perfectly respectable past. His private detective had discovered that she had a mother and sister alive in Bergen, Norway, and another sister who was married to a prosperous sea captain named Ramstad. The heroine of the Horn, they called her. Trent often found himself spellbound by the stories she wrote for the Times and the exquisite drawings she included. Apparently Tora had come to America with Elsa. However, curiously, her name was not on the Herald's manifest. Was that the reason for her secrecy, he wondered for the 1000th time? Had she stowed away? For a brief time she had been the housekeeper for a shipmate of Ramstad's, caring for his 2 young sons.